Welcome to Still Speak Podcast. I'm bringing you a breakdown, analysis, and story of a family dynasty, a murder mystery family dynasty. This is an ongoing story and has spanned over the course of several years, and it continues to have one tragic development after another. It's a case of whodunit, but not only whodunit in one case, but whodunit in 4 different cases. You heard that correct. 4. I saw this story a few months ago, and it was fascinating for sure, but it didn't really capture my attention for whatever reason until yesterday, when a massive development happened, which caused me to dig further into the case, and I immediately woke up this morning like, I have to talk about this. I've seen it discussed on mainstream national news, but I'm kind of surprised that it's not like a front page story everywhere, because it's a mouth-dropping story. It's really wild. So the story is about a family called the Murdahs. Now, let me pause there for a second, because their names have been pronounced several different ways by experts, media, other YouTubers, etc. It seems that nobody really knows how to pronounce their last name. I'm going to say Murdaugh. It's the easiest. But some people have said Murdaugh, Murdaugh, Murdoch. I don't know. Whatever it is, I don't think it really matters in the grand scheme of it. I'm going to go with Murdaugh, because that's how it Google says it's pronounced, and that's how it looks to me, so that's what we're going to do. For more than a century, the Murdahs have dominated the legal landscape in their area. In 1910, Randolph Murdaugh Sr. started his own law firm in Hampton County of South Carolina, which grew into a multi-million-dollar practice with offices in 3 other counties where generations of Murdahs have worked ever since. And as a result of his success as a local lawyer, starting in 1920, he became the first of a succession of Murdahs to serve as a solicitor in the 14th Judicial Circuit, prosecuting criminal cases in 4 counties. The Murdaugh family is an influential institution in the area. Now, Paul Murdaugh, who is highly involved in this story, his grandfather, great-grandfather, and great-great-grandfather all served as solicitors of the 14th Judicial Circuit from 1920 to 2006. And in addition to that, their government jobs, the family owned a well-known law firm called Peters, Murdaugh, Parker, Ellsworth, and Detrick for more than 100 years in Hampton County. And since 2015, there have been connections to the family in regards to several deaths. And some of those connections to the deaths are, via rumor or speculation. But one of the deaths was connected to them due to Paul Murdaugh, the son of Alex and Maggie Murdaugh, allegedly driving a boat that killed a young, beautiful friend of his named Mallory Beach. So this family's story, or the story itself right now that we're going to be discussing, really actually starts in 2015. And we're finding out after a series of horrible events that SLED, S-L-E-D, which stands for South Carolina Law Enforcement Division, is reopening the investigation into the death of a 19-year-old named Stephen Smith, due to information that was gathered during the course of the investigation into the boating accident and what has now happened with some of the members of the Murdaugh family, which we're going to get into. And Stephen Smith was a young gay man, and he was found dead on Sandy Road Run in Hampton County, South Carolina. He was found in the middle of the road, and investigators originally believed he had been hit by a car. He was found on July 8th, 2015. And Stephen's death was connected to the family, early on via rumors and speculation, town gossip, so to speak. But later, during future investigations, it became more than rumor and speculation, albeit we don't really know why it did. They have not said, but while they were investigating other cases led them to reopen the case of Stephen Smith. So that was in 2015. Now let's fast forward, okay? Another death got connected to the Murdaughs, and that was of their family housekeeper, Gloria Satterfield. She died in 2018, so this is now 3 years after Stephen, as a result of a trip and fall accident, according to documents. While the 57-year-old woman's death was classified as an accident, the Murdaugh family reportedly settled a wrongful death lawsuit for $500,000. And Alex Murdaugh was the one who was named in the lawsuit. No information was released, though, on why he would be held responsible financially for her death. But this is what happened. Now, go forward another year. We're now into 2019. In February of 2019, specifically February 24th, Mallory Beach is killed in a boating accident after a night of drinking where 6 total underage intoxicated individuals boarded a boat that had no working lights and they were only using a flashlight to drive it. They hit a bridge and Mallory was tossed from the boat. The crash occurred in Archer's Creek near Paris Island. A week after she was tossed from the boat, her body was discovered on March 3rd, 2019 by a boater near the Broad River boat landing in Beaufort County. She was identified by the clothing on her body being the clothes that she had on at the time of the crash when she was ejected. Almost immediately after her death, the Beach family filed a wrongful death lawsuit against several Beaufort County bars, convenience store, and 2 homeowners, all of which the suit claims served Mallory and her friends alcohol the night of her death. Luther's Bar and Restaurant on Bay Street in Beaufort, the Parker's 55 convenience store in Ridgeland, as well as Beaufort County homeowners Christy and James Wood. In the lawsuit, the Beaches claimed that Mallory and her friends started their night by getting alcohol at the Parker's 55 in Ridgeland. Later, the wrongful death suit says the group of 18 to 20-year-olds went to the Woods' home to party and that had alcohol there. The plaintiff claimed that Woods knew or should have known that the partygoers were underage. It was also alleged that the group took the boat from the home and went to Luther's, where some were served alcohol there as well. The crew then left Luther's by boat and eventually crashed into a piling near Archer's Creek Bridge. After investigation into the crash occurred on April 18th of 2019, Paul Murdaugh, the son of Alex Murdaugh, was indicted on charges of boating under the influence causing death and 2 more counts of boating under the influence causing bodily injury. And Paul Murdaugh was, as I just said, indicted on April 18th, and that would have been Mallory Beach's 20th birthday, which is very sad. The following month, on May 6, 2019, Murdaugh pleads not guilty to all charges in a Beaufort County court. Murdaugh handed over his passport and was released on bond. He was ordered not to leave the 14th Judicial Circuit without permission of the court. Remember, this is the same judicial court that his family has been involved in for many, many years. Now, we're going to go 2 years forward. So this was in February that this accident occurred. He was charged. He pled not guilty in May. And then 2 years later, okay, on June 4th, 2021, so just a few months ago, okay? That was actually 3 months ago, given the date. Court ordered for mediation in the wrongful death lawsuit. Unfortunately, this mediation did not work out, and the case was now going to be heading for trial. And an attorney representing Mallory Beach's family filed a motion in the civil case pushing the family of the suspected driver, Paul Murdaugh, to disclose their net worth and finances as the case gets closer to a trial. In the motion file, Beach's family says that their lawyer was asking that the judge require Richard Alexander Murdaugh and Richard Alexander Murdaugh Jr. to fully respond to previous requests for financial documents. There's a lot of Murdaughs, okay? So I might trip up here and there. It happens. Including a list of checking, savings, 401k accounts, a list of all investments, net worth statements, and tax returns. They asked this after multiple attempts of trying to get the Murdaughs to turn it over themselves. Information was released about the Murdaughs' insurance policies. They have a $500,000 insurance policy for their boat, according to court documents accompanying the motion. And in addition, they have 2 other insurance policies, and it caps out at $6 million. Now, mind you, okay, Paul was charged in 2019, and this is now June 4th of 2021, where this mediation does not work out and the case headed for trial, and that they were asking for these financial records. June 4th. Okay? 3 days later, on June 7th, 2021, Alex Murdaugh discovered the bodies of his son Paul and his wife Maggie at their 1,700-acre hunting lodge on Moselle Road in Colleton County. A 911 call was placed at 10:07 p.m. The sheriff's office responded and secured the scene. South Carolina State Law Enforcement Division, SLED, was contacted at 10:28 p.m. to assist, and they arrived at the property at 11:47 p.m. The State Law Enforcement Division called the deaths of Margaret and Paul Murdaugh murders a few days after their bodies were discovered on their rural property, and SLED confirmed that Alex Murdaugh, husband to Maggie and father to Paul, was the one to find their bodies and call for help. The next day, June 8, 2021, authorities said that there was no threat to the public and that local authorities were saying Alex and son Buster were not suspects in the murder case of Maggie and Paul. But that, of course, did not stop online speculation, who had theories that included both the father and the remaining son being involved. On June 11th of 2021, a graveside service was held at the Hampton Cemetery for both Paul and Maggie Murdaugh, which ended in a torrential downpour, sending funeral attendees running. And the head of the family dynasty, Randolph Murdaugh III, was 81 years old at the time, and he passed away just 3 days after Paul and Maggie were killed. His death was confirmed by the law firm. So this family lost, Paul and Maggie, and now they also lost Randolph. Both Maggie and Paul Murdaugh died from multiple gunshot wounds. The estimated time of death was somewhere between 9 and 9:30 p.m. And authorities have not said how many times each were shot or in what parts of their body. And they defer to SLED, which is leading the investigation. It's been said by a source that one was shot multiple times with a shotgun and one was shot multiple times with an assault rifle, but that has not been confirmed by any type of law enforcement. And on June 16th of 2021, SLED created a 24-hour tip line dedicated to just this case, and that number is 803-896-2605. On June 17th, 2021, Alex Murdaugh's brothers, Randy Murdaugh and John Marvin Murdaugh, appeared in an exclusive interview with ABC News in which they basically pled for the public to come forth with any information, and they confirmed that Paul Murdaugh had been receiving threats prior to his death. On June 21st, 2021, SLED released a handful of very heavily redacted documents shedding light on what deputies discovered the night of the murders. The documents, as I said, were highly redacted and are written from the perspective of several of the deputies who responded that night to 4147 Moselle Road. Among the items noted in the report are the discovery of shell casings near the bodies and the need for a large tent to cover evidence exposed to the elements. On June 23, 2021, based on information gathered in the Murdaugh investigation, SLED said that it was now looking into the case that we discussed at the beginning of this, the 2015 death of Stephen Smith, which was 6 years prior to the death of Maggie and Paul. On June 25th, 2021, members of the Murdaugh family formally announced a $100,000 reward for information that led to an arrest in the double homicide. On July 7th of 2021, attorneys representing a survivor of the boat crash that killed Mallory Beach filed a petition alleging law enforcement tried to shift the blame from Paul Murdaugh to their client, Connor Cook. About Maggie and Paul's death, Circuit Judge Bentley Price said that he was going to review the redactions to see if it was legal for them to be redacting that much information, and so he was going to try to decide whether or not it was allowed or not. State police told the judge that they didn't want the information released about the slayings of the two members of a prominent South Carolina legal family, and after more than a month of the investigation, they said they didn't know what evidence might be important on those papers to solve the case. So basically, they wanted to make sure that they didn't leak out any information that could be evidence, and that's why it was so heavily redacted, and they really didn't know what on those papers were going to be important and what wasn't. The Post and Courier, the Charleston newspaper, sued the agency, SLED, saying it had violated the State Public Records Act by first refusing to release police reports on the killings and then heavily redacting the information in the reports. So this is why it came before a judge. And it says, that at this stage of the investigation, such as this, it's exceedingly difficult to know precisely what evidence, witnesses, and information are of ultimate importance and what evidence, witnesses, or information proves to be of little value. And that was from the State Law Enforcement Division and the Sheriff's Office, what they wrote in court papers. So SLED and Colleton County Sheriff's Office. The Post and Courier's lawyer argued that the state agency was heavy-handed with how it blocked out information. And they said that the South Carolina Freedom of Information Act requires the agency to say exactly how any information not released would, affect the investigation instead of allowing officials to just say, it may cause a problem. State police released 18 pages of the report the month prior to this. And all but one page had redactions, and some pages were entirely blacked out. And the information that wasn't redacted, as I said earlier, was, needing a tent to put over evidence while the crime scene technicians worked. Another deputy outlining where he put crime scene tape and the mentioning of shell casings. So on July 22nd, 2021, SLED released the 911 call placed by Alex Murdaugh the night Paul and Maggie were killed, and it's heartbreaking. You can tell he was very stunned, and the people who thought that he may be involved prior were now starting to believe that there's no way he could have faked that emotion. He sounded sincerely just beside himself at coming home to his son and wife shot to death on his property. On August 6th of 2021, the South Carolina Attorney General's office dropped all charges against Paul Murdaugh in the death of Mallory Beach because he's now dead, right? So can't charge him. He's dead. On August 11th, 2021, 14th Circuit Solicitor Duffy Stone sent a letter to South Carolina Attorney General Alan Wilson stating that he intended to recuse himself from the investigation into the death of Maggie and Paul Murdaugh. Now, there's no real explanation as to why he wanted to do this. Maybe he's close to the family. Maybe he's, there's some kind of connection there, and he doesn't feel comfortable basically presiding over it. So on August 17, 2021, following a Freedom of Information Act request, WJCL Media received photos and video from the South Carolina Attorney General's office collected as evidence following the boat crash that killed Mallory Beach. Now, this is what caught my attention and why I'm here today speaking to you and telling you this story. You're not going to believe this one. Hang tight. This is mouth-dropping. So now you have this Stephen guy who was killed in 2015. You have the housekeeper killed in 2018. You have Mallory Beach killed out in 2019. You have Paul Murdaugh being charged with her death also in 2019. Fast forward 2 months. They try to work it out over Mallory's death in a mediation in court. It didn't work out. And 3 days later, Paul and his mother are shot dead on their own property, okay? Now, that was June. It's September. Yesterday, the father of Paul Murdaugh and the husband to Maggie was shot in the head while changing a tire in Hampton County, according to a family spokesperson. He is currently hospitalized and said to be conscious and speaking by the end of, last evening. And SLED is now also involved in his case. Lawyers for Alex said that they were told that Alex was changing a tire on the side of the road when a car passed him. The vehicle turned around and someone went up to the car and shot him in the head. Alex was airlifted to Medical University of South Carolina in Charleston. As I said, he's conscious and speaking. That was the last update. The family spokesman released a statement saying, the Murdaugh family has suffered through more than any one family could ever imagine, and we expect Alex to recover and ask for your privacy while he's recovering. Oh my gosh. Are you kidding me here? Clearly, somebody has it out for the Murdaughs, right? Okay. Now, there's a lot of theories here because, they were prosecuting cases, this family, so maybe somebody would have grudge. It could be something connected to Mallory Beach's death. Maybe it could be something connected to Stephen's death. Maybe it could be something connected to the housekeeper's death. There's a lot of who the heck did this. Now, who killed Stephen? That's number one. How did this housekeeper die and then Alex Murdaugh have to pay $500,000. What's that all about when it was ruled an accident? What happened with Mallory Beach? Because we're going to talk about that boating accident further and who was on the boat and what was transpiring right before her death. It's really not confirmed that it was Paul driving 100, in 50,000%. We don't know that. And now Paul and Maggie are dead. Who did that? And now Alex, the father of Paul and the husband of Maggie, is also shot. The only one who has not been shot is the remaining brother. But law enforcement said after Paul and Maggie's death that son, they do not believe is a suspect. Woo! That's a lot. This story is hold on. Tragic, number one. But wow, what a mystery, right? I'm not trying to laugh at these tragic deaths. But what in the hell is going on here? This is just too much. We're going to stop right there. I'm going to pick up in the next episode discussing Stephen's death a little bit more. We're going to break down what was going on the night of the boat crash, kind of time frame to time frame of what was happening with these 6 drunk young people prior to the crash. And we're going to also be discussing, they had information in court documents from the Garmin navigation system which showed where they were traveling in this boat throughout the night. And I'm going to be following updates on Alex Murdaugh, because as of the last update, he was still alive. And in the meantime, I'm hoping his son Buster, the one who has not been shot or murdered, is in a safe location, because out of the family of 4, he's the only one who's not been shot yet. Or I should say, let's hope that never happens. I feel bad saying yet, but he has not been harmed in any way, and hopefully he's in a safe place. Until next time, I'll see you soon. Thanks.